A 180-pound Cane Corso was rejected 5 times. 5 families looked at his face and left. After 527 days in a kennel, he had 21 days left. Then 2 people walked in, and what this dog did for them in the middle of a dark forest at 3 a.m. will change everything you thought you knew about dangerous breeds. A 180-pound Cane Corso stood at the edge of the shelter kennel, staring at the door. Not barking, not whining, just watching. He had been watching that door for 527 days, and every single time it opened, someone walked in, looked at his face, and walked right back out. 5 families, 5 rejections. 5 times someone looked at those deep-set eyes, those heavy wrinkled folds, that wide scarred jaw, and decided he was too much, too big, too scary, too dangerous. They called him a monster. His name was Titan. The first family returned him after 48 hours, said he knocked over their kitchen table just by turning around. The second family lasted 11 days. Their neighbors had complained. The third family, they didn't even make it through the first night, left him tied to the shelter gate at 2 a.m. with a note that said one word: sorry. The fourth and fifth families? No explanation, no note, just gone. Each time, Titan walked back into that same kennel, kennel number 7, the one at the far end of the corridor, where the light flickered, where the cold came in through the broken vent. For 527 days, that flickering light was the only constant in his life. The shelter workers loved him, but love doesn't pay for 180 pounds of kibble every week, and love doesn't stop a euthanasia list from growing. Titan had 21 days left. What most people don't know about Cane Corsos is this: they are not aggressive by nature. They're loyal to a degree that most humans will never understand. They attach to one world, one family, one home, one purpose, and they pour everything into it. A Cane Corso without a family isn't dangerous. He's just lost. Titan wasn't a monster. He was the most devoted creature in that building, and nobody had given him a reason to prove it. That changed on a Tuesday morning in October. Jake and Mia Bennett weren't looking for a guard dog. They were looking for a companion, a trail partner, someone who could keep up on the 14-mile hikes through the Blue Ridge Mountains they did every single weekend. They lived 20 minutes from the trailhead and spent more time in the forest than in their own living room. They had done their research. They knew they wanted a large breed, confident, resilient, built for terrain, not apartment life. What they didn't expect was kennel number 7. Mia stopped walking the second she saw him. Jake kept going and then stopped too. Titan wasn't growling, wasn't lunging. He was sitting completely still, his enormous head tilted slightly to one side, like he was trying to figure out if these 2 people were finally the ones. "What happened to him?" Mia asked the shelter worker. The worker hesitated, returned 5 times. Nobody could get past the face. Mia crouched down to Titan's eye level. He didn't flinch. He leaned forward and pressed his nose gently, impossibly gently, against the chain link fence. Jake looked at Mia. Mia looked at Jake. "We'll take him." The first week was not a movie montage. Titan had never lived in a home. He didn't understand rugs. He walked around every single one for 3 straight days, like they were traps. He knocked the bathroom door off its hinges by leaning on it, not on purpose, just because 180 pounds of muscle leaning on anything has consequences. He also snored loudly, like a congested freight train. Jake timed it one night at 2 a.m., 94 decibels from across the hallway. The man genuinely considered earplugs. But here's what nobody in those 5 families saw, and what Jake and Mia noticed on day 3. Every morning at 5:47 a.m., before their alarm went off, Titan stood at the foot of their bed, not barking, just standing, waiting. The moment either of them stirred, his tail, thick as a baseball bat, started swinging, slow at first, then faster, then full body. He had been waking up early his whole life. He just never had anyone to wake up for. If you haven't subscribed yet, I see you. Honestly, that breaks my heart a little. Hit subscribe. You don't want to miss what happened next in those mountains. The first hike was 6 miles. Titan had never been on a trail, but the moment his paws hit the dirt path, something in him shifted. He didn't pull, he didn't chase, he walked exactly 2 steps ahead of Mia, exactly 2 steps behind Jake, like he had calculated the safest position to keep them both in his sight at all times. When the path narrowed, he waited. When Mia's boot slipped on a wet rock, he was already there, solid as a wall, her hand instinctively grabbing his back as she caught her balance. He positioned himself, Jake said later, like he knew. Weeks passed, then months. They logged 34 hikes together, covering 280 miles of trail. Titan learned every switchback, every creek crossing, every spot where bears had passed through recently. He would stop, raise his enormous head, and hold completely still, not aggressive, just aware, giving them time to read the trail before moving on. He had found his purpose. And then came the night that no one planned for. It was a November evening. Jake and Mia had set up camp 5 miles deep into the forest, the way they always did when the weekend stretched long. At 3:23 a.m., Titan stood up. Not slowly, not lazily. He was on his feet in a single motion, every muscle locked, body completely still, facing the tree line east of their tent. Jake woke first. He unzipped the tent and saw Titan, planted between the tent and the darkness, head low, chest wide, not making a single sound. 40 feet into the tree line, 2 eyes reflected in the flashlight beam. Mountain lion, young, likely hungry, and close enough that Jake could hear the dry leaves beneath it shift. Titan didn't lunge, he didn't bark, he simply grew. That's the only way Jake could describe it later. He stood up to his full height, squared his chest, and became the biggest, most immovable thing in that forest, a living wall between his family and what was coming from the dark. The mountain lion held for 11 seconds. Then it turned and walked away. Jake sat down in the dirt next to Titan, put his arm around that massive neck, didn't say anything for a long time. 5 families had called this dog a monster, and out here, 5 miles deep in the dark, this so-called monster had just placed himself between his people and something that could have ended that night permanently. No training, no command, no hesitation. Just Titan, doing what he was always meant to do. Stories like this don't get told enough, and if this one made you feel something, that feeling is exactly why we keep sharing them. Titan was returned 5 times. 5 times someone looked at his face and decided he wasn't worth it. But Jake and Mia saw something nobody else had the patience to find. Not a monster, not a liability, not too much. Just a dog who had been waiting 527 days for the right 2 people to say yes. Today, Titan is 4 years old. He still wakes up at 5:47 a.m. every morning. He still walks 2 steps ahead of Mia on every trail. He still snores at 94 decibels and still has no understanding why rugs exist. And every single weekend, he leads his family into the mountains. Not because anyone told him to, because that's who he always was. 5 families rejected him for his face. Would you have given him a chance or walked away too? Tell me in the comments.